It's ZFM Stereo Talk.
Our business is able to access currency through the formal channels.
Let's take it this way. Until about this time last year, we were running what I call an over-liberalized foreign exchange market, something that no other country does. Especially in a situation where the hard currency, the US dollars, is the medium of exchange. It's almost like the sole currency, and yet we don't print it.
The talk that gets you talking, Mondays to Thursdays between 6 p.m. and 9 p.m.
The platform. Step up and speak out.
You're tuned into ZFM Stereo, my station, your station, the hottest radio in town. The name is Larry Kwirirayi for yet another episode of The Platform. The show is brought to you every Monday, and we should talk about the burning issues, the current affairs that are defining the conversation in Zimbabwe. And today, it is a conversation that always is peaks at the beginning of the year, and we're actually at the beginning of every school term. But before I introduce my guest and go through proceedings for today, just to remind you of some of the frequencies you can listen to us. Chivu 99.8, Cholocho 97.9, Byte Bridge 106.1, Mutorashanga 97.6, Victoria Falls 106.5, Nyanga 98.2, Mashingo Netara 96.1, Bulawayo, my hometown, Gontutu Zatunga is 106.7, Mutare 95.4, and we're broadcasting from Harare and its environs where our frequency is 106.4. And you can listen to us, of course, via the internet, www.zfmstereo.co.zw, and then you can also look for us via the TuneIn app. Just download it and look for ZFM Stereo. The conversation is live, of course. You can follow it on Twitter at ZFM Stereo, on Facebook, facebook.com/ZFM Stereo. On Instagram, it is at ZFM Stereo ZW. In the studio, of course, our call-in number is 0772 168 045. I'll be reminding you of that number throughout the show, and our WhatsApp number is 0731 168 045. Now, the 2008 schooling year officially began last week. Some parents had to sweat it out to secure grade 1 and Form 1 places, while some are still looking around. There also been concerns over the new school's curriculum, which was introduced last week. The curriculum has hit hard on pockets of parents who have had to fork out between $200 and $300 each for grade 1 pupils. This adds more trouble to parents who are already under fiscal pressure. To help me with the answers to all this in the studio today, we have the Minister of Primary and Secondary Education, Professor Paul Mavhima. Welcome to the platform, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Larry. Thanks for having me, and good evening, Zimbabwe.
And just remind you, this conversation began on social media platforms in the morning and it continues now. And we'll be asking those questions that you asked throughout the day. The minister is here. And of course, any questions that come in this evening via Twitter, rather our WhatsApp as well as our Twitter, and of course our call-in number. The phone line is open. Our WhatsApp lines are open. So the conversation is fluid. Just to remind you of the number, the WhatsApp number is 0731 168 045. And the call-in number is 0772 168 045. Now, Minister, the question I ask is, what is the government doing to make sure that students starting grade 1 are accommodated in schools, because most pupils who did their ECD at the same school are being asked to reapply for grade 1 places, even with some failing to get places?
That is not too much of a problem, really, at grade 1. Typically, what happens is that there are new students who come into a school because they have gone to maybe a private crèche or ECD center. And at grade 1, because the ECD center did not have grade 1, they have to transition to a school which offers grade 1. So this is why you have those issues. And also, there is no guarantee that the ECD learners who are in a school are necessarily going to go into that particular school. Typically, schools start calling for applications around June, July, for grade 1, and I think it's always good for parents when schools do that to make sure that they have registered their interest to continue in the same school. So it's for matters of confirmation that the learners who are in ECD are going to continue into grade 1 at the same level, at the same school, and also giving opportunity to other learners who may be in an ECD center outside that particular school.
Okay, so we've got instances in which some pupils are being forced to repeat ECD-B, for example, after failing to get grade 1 places. Now, a child being robbed of a year of school, what's your comment on that?
Larry, I am hearing that for the first time, that there are learners who are being forced to be in ECD-B again. If there are such cases, they are very unfortunate, because I believe that by and large we have sufficient places for grade 1 to absorb all the ECD-B learners into grade 1. It's just a matter of maybe applying in good time, and also making sure that beyond your immediate school there could be a nearby school where that learner can proceed. And I am not sure why a school which has had that learner in ECD-B, they have taught them for a full year, why they would want that learner to go back into ECD-B.
So the question, so to put it simply, it's not government policy.
It's not government policy. It's not government policy at all. It's not government policy. In fact, the decision to backtrack a learner, especially in basic education, is really not government policy.
And so, if that is happening to me, and I'm a parent at home, to do good, what do I do? What do I do to make sure that my child is not being put back to EDCB if this is happening to me?
They just need two things they can do. One, just make sure they confront the school that is not acceptable. Secondly, they are at each district, there are officials of this ministry, the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education, whom they can appeal to make sure that these issues are resolved. I am sure those officials will make it possible to resolve such issues.
Okay, we're going to ask the first question. We've still got a couple of questions here, but we've also got a lot of questions from listeners. Remember, the conversation started with you throughout the day. You, the listener out there, I'll be attending to your questions, but of course we'll be accepting calls as well as WhatsApp messages. Giza from Chizanga says, Minister, subjects at primary school are too many. The content is too deep, but you are reluctant to address this issue. Why?
I have never been reluctant, Larry. Ever since I came in as the Minister of Primary and Secondary Education, I have indicated that I am addressing these issues, specifically that issue that he referred to. And I have said that it's not just about the content being too much, it's also about the inverted level of difficulty in some of the learning areas, where more difficult content is being delivered to lower grades than the higher ones. And I promised that I was going to put up a team to look into these issues. This team is almost finalizing that evaluation, especially the first part of that evaluation, where we have to address things that need to be addressed immediately. So I have not been reluctant to address this issue. It's one of the issues that we are addressing, including the issue of the specific content of some of the syllabi, including the issue of tasks and projects that people have said tend to be too much. And I have specifically directed that I want these recommendations to be out by the 30th of this month, so that we are not too much into the school year. But I didn't want also to do a rushed thing without a look by experts. So this is why it has taken over a month, and we are going to make the necessary adjustments, and these are going to be coming from our experts within the ministry.
So going forward with this, I know you're saying you don't want to have it go too much into the current term, but the question is, the government is essentially pressing for the most with the implementation of the new curriculum. Is that a correct position?
It is. Yes. It is a correct position, and the reason why, there is a very good reason why it's a correct position. We have to appreciate the aims and objectives of this curriculum. It is a curriculum that is going to move us to where we have learner exit profiles that make our learners critical thinkers, problem solvers, self-managers. They will look into problems that communities have and come up with innovative solutions that can move this country to where it should be in terms of socio-economic transformation. If you look at the framework, that's what it says we should do. And if you look around the world, those countries that have tended to do well are countries that have adopted curricula that are like this. And if you look at what is happening in higher and tertiary education in our country, the recent meeting that took place between His Excellency and the Vice Chancellors of universities all emphasized the same approach. So we can't have a disconnect between higher and tertiary education and the basic education system. There has to be a seamless connection, and this is what the updated curriculum is trying to do.
So then the question is, at this stage, the juncture, with you talking about the fact that you've got a couple of experts that come in and will be looking at the depth of the content that is in the current curriculum. Given that this, as it is right now, where parents have been forced to buy their own textbooks, manila, and so forth, how are the issues of there not being enough teaching materials in the current curriculum going to be addressed, and also the fact that some parents have already made a spend without knowing what's going to happen in the next couple of weeks?
I have indicated, Larry, that prior to my coming in as minister, we had already started the process for procurement. I was deputy minister then, for procurement of teaching and learning materials. The bureaucratic process is done. Materials are being produced as we speak by our book publishers. Distribution starts immediately. It's not like schools don't know which materials to use for the new curriculum. They do. But there are schools which cannot afford. They are the disadvantaged schools. And we have invested 9 million to make sure that these materials are provided on the new curriculum. And the distribution starts before month end. I am continually hitting on the book publishers to be fast in producing and distributing this new material. And the distribution is going to start now, going to most of the disadvantaged schools. Meanwhile, those schools that can afford have already acquired their own materials for the new curriculum.
I've got a couple of messages here. I'm going to read those. There's some of the things you might have touched on. It says, please help us. Grade 1 and 2 must focus more on reading and writing, then content acquisition later when they can actually read and write. And here's to say, it's impossible to meet all those aims and objectives. We don't have the resources for this curriculum. As such, it becomes taxing for facilitator and learner. And someone else says here, remember this is on 0731 168 045. The phone line is open. I'm keeping an eye on the phone line. Don't think I'm ignoring you. So as soon as I see the phone lines flashing, I'm going to get your calls through. The phone number is 0772-168-045. But just to read this message, yes, I agree with the Minister on Zimbabwe introducing a curriculum that develops critical thinkers. However, this needs to be supported by properly trained teachers, and books shouldn't be this expensive. Please imagine $10 for a coloring book that I can buy for £1 in the United Kingdom. You touched a bit on that, but these are the real issues right now. I mean, with the prices of everything, how would we counteract that? Because you said this is for underprivileged schools. What about the so-called privileged schools where the price is pretty shocking?
I will tell you, Larry, that there may have been unscrupulous people who are taking advantage of the parents and the learners. But the books that we are going to distribute, most of them are going to cost much less than what people are talking about. I have some of the books that are going to cost less than $1 for us as government. And all the listed booksellers are mandated to sell at that same price. In fact, there is no price increase between the book publisher and the bookseller. So there is a list of booksellers who are supposed to offer these books at reasonable prices. But I'm sure that there are some unscrupulous people, just like with everything else, who are increasing the prices of the teaching and learning materials and taking advantage of the Zimbabwean public.
0772-168-045. That's the number you can call us on. Just call us. And 0731-168-045. That is the number you can send up a WhatsApp message. Before we talk about the other things that I wanted to get into, I want to get a bit into the concerns that were raised by different people. And I think some of those actually touched. Somebody says, take into consideration the requirements. This is My Naji. I'm going to read a couple first.
Yes.
My Naji says, take into consideration the requirements of the new curriculum in terms of stationery for kids. How are those in rural areas able to manage? How will these children manage to get the required resources? Kana vachimboshaya fees here $10 pozo diwa resources there $100. I think you touched on that in this first.
And for most of the rural areas, actually, the stationery is provided by the school. We have granting aid that go to the disadvantaged schools. So there is a government subsidy that goes into our rural areas.
Okay. 0772-168-045. I've got a caller on the line. Caller, you're on the line. What's your name? Where you calling from? And what's your contribution? Hello, you there? Okay, seem to have dropped that line. Please try to call back. I really want your contribution on this. What we're going to do right now is going to take a quick break. When I come back, I want to get more in-depth into those issues that you have been... In fact, I think that call is coming back. Let's try and get this call back on the line. CFM Stereo, good evening. What's your name, where you're calling from, and what's your contribution?
Hello, I'm calling from Bulawayo.
Yes, what's your contribution? What would you like to ask the minister?
Okay, I would like to ask Uguti, how are the learners going to manage, say, if the learner is doing 11 subjects at high school, how are they going to do 11 projects and 11 tasks? When at university, only a grown-up person only struggle with one project.
Remember, Larry, that's the first issue that I referred to, where I said I have a team of experts that is looking into these issues. I've gone to a number of places in the country, talked to teachers, talked to parents, talked to some learners, and these issues have been raised, the issue of tasks, the issue of continuous assessment. And I have specifically said to our experts, look at this issue of tasks as a matter of agency, and I want a recommendation towards making them doable, practical, and feasible feasible in the sense that you can't overload the learners. We don't want our learners to be lackadaisical, but at the same time, we want to give them tasks and assignments that are feasible, that can be done. Specifically, I asked our team to make recommendations on this issue of continuous assessment, which includes the projects and tasks.
Okay, so please keep your messages coming in on 0731 168 045 and call us on 0772 168 045. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we keep pressing on with the issues that have to do with this important issue of the education curriculum.
News, lifestyle, charts, live radio, station highlights, and much more. Get it all on zfmstereo.co.zw. It's ZFM Stereo Talk.
Can we begin by looking at Zimbabwe's debt clearance plan?
We have since cleared our arrears to the IMF, and right now, clearance of arrears to the African Development Bank and the World Bank is underway. It's work in progress. And I'm confident that we should be able to reach an understanding this year.
The talk that gets you talking. Mondays to Thursdays between 6 p.m. and Twitter heads. Connect with ZFM Stereo on twitter.com/ZFM Stereo. /ZFM Stereo.
The platform. Step up and speak up.
You're tuned into ZFM Stereo, my station, your station, the hottest radio in town. We are talking about the education curriculum. Schools open this weekend. There's so many issues that have come up, and as far as the education curriculum is concerned, the new curriculum that's implemented, and so far we've tackled issues as to the depth of content. The Honourable Minister of Primary and Secondary Education, Professor Paul Mavhima, is in the studio to tackle your questions, and 0772 168 045, the number that is open for you to make calls into the studio, and 0731 168 045. That's our WhatsApp number. In fact, I'm going to take a call right now, and you're live on ZFM Stereo. What's your contribution? Where you calling from, and what's your name?
Hello, I'm Miss D. I'm calling from Mavuku. I would like to ask Mr. Mavhima that why are we being forced to buy uniforms from schools, yet there are shops that sell uniforms with a better price? We are paying higher fees for these uniforms. And another thing is, why are we buying bond paper, yet we pay school fees as well? From what is the use of school fees that we are paying? Yet we are forced to buy bond paper, we are forced to buy this, we are forced to buy that. What is it that school fees is doing nowadays? Thank you.
Thank you for your contribution. Honourable Minister, the question being school uniforms being bought from schools, we at the shops that are more affordable. What is the government policy on that?
We say, Larry, that no parent should be forced to pay a higher price at the school for uniforms. In fact, the arrangement to have uniforms provided at the schools was supposed to bring economies of scale in the production and selling of those uniforms. So they were supposed to be cheaper. But we have had situations where some heads have adopted that as a fundraising kind of activity. And in some cases, the extent has been very outrageous. Some secondary schools, boarding schools, for example, the entire boarding and school levy was half of what was being demanded as the price for uniforms. So no parent should be forced to pay a higher price at the school when there's an alternative price that is offered in town. NB, other shops will be offering a lower price. The parent should go and buy from there and not be forced by the school to pay at the school. And the heads need to be told in no uncertain terms that that practice is not allowed by the ministry. And where we see it happen, such heads will be charged. It's not government policy to do that. We understand the economic situation that the Zimbabwean citizens face, and we can't add that burden on them simply by wanting to, make money out of them. The issue of bond paper, there are some provisions, of course, that may be necessary here and there, especially provisions that go towards directly benefiting the learner. Like, for example, there are schools, after paying your fees, you still have to buy your exercise books. So if the bond paper is used directly by your learner, it then makes sense for the school to ask you to bring bond paper. But these demands have to be reasonable, Larry. I wouldn't want to see a situation where parents are asked to buy supplies that go sometimes even beyond the fees that they are paying at the school. If the school has a reason to increase the levies, they know the process. They know the process that they should use. They should write to the secretary, and the secretary will look at the case and approve or deny that application. So there is some common sense that should prevail. And if parents realize that whatever they are being asked to do defies common sense, then they should know where to report, and it is at our district offices, and there will be recourse for such parents.
Okay, I've got a good question to come here, but I want to ask a follow-up question to what you said about the issue of uniforms. So say I'm in Guabalanda, yes, and this practice is happening.
Yes.
What do I do if this is happening now? And I'm told, unless I buy from the school, I can't get my whatever penalties are there in place. Because it's all very well the minister saying it from Harare. Yeah. What do I do in my local?
There are district offices where they can go and report these cases. But Larry, there have been people who have phoned me directly at my office to say this is what is happening, and I've ordered investigations to take place, and we have resolved those cases. So at every level of our ministry structures, people can approach the officials and tell them of the various malpractices that may be happening. Having said that, I want to say that the majority of our heads are doing the right thing, Larry. There are a few heads who, for various reasons, may be engaging in these practices. So the public should approach ministry offices at every level, including even phoning the office of the minister for that reason.
And finally, on the same topic, because I want to move on to a lot of other burning issues, I think given this, in fact, the question that I want to ask next can also be applied to issue EMI uniforms. There's somebody here, Samantha says, will the school and district officers be held accountable in the event of failure to resolve the ECD and grade 7 repeats? What leverage does the society have in ensuring that justice is observed? So even on that issue, how do we get a situation where they're made more accountable, and whatever, even if they're a minority, no one is actually found being a victim?
We have to promote what I call as representative bureaucracy in this country, Larry. The citizens themselves have to be conscientious about these issues. The citizens have nothing to fear. The only way we can stop malpractice is if citizens come forward and say this is what is happening. And it doesn't only relate to the education sector, it relates to every government department. Unless citizens come forward, they are conscientious, they shun malpractice, and they report it, then it will be impossible for us in government to catch every case. So most of this information has to come from the citizens to say this is what is happening. It is unfair. Like I say, if they see that something defies common sense, then they have a reason to approach the offices and report the case.
Okay, just before we take this call, I've got this call here. Sky Nico Anashi has a suggestion for you. So not a question, but is there a chance of him, you being the Honorable Professor Mavhima, playing undercover boss one of these days and visiting some of these schools without notification and seeing the deplorable things that are happening there? We're going to take this call now. ZFM Stereo, you're live on air. What's your contribution? What's your name and where you're calling from?
Hi, Larry.
Hi. Hi. What's your name? What's your contribution and where you calling from?
My name is Collins and I'm calling from Derry. I have a question for the minister.
Yes, go ahead with the question. He's listening.
Regarding the new curriculum, I just wanted to find out what is the government stance over Nyaya Kuti.
Hello, are you still there? Oh, Collins. Please try and call back, Collins. We seem to have lost you there. Would like to know what your question is, and as far as that is concerned, 0731 168 045 is the WhatsApp number you can get in touch with us on. And earlier on, we also had more questions via our Twitter platform. It says this is, I'm just going to read this even though we covered it, because it's so somebody says, why is it that parents are now forced to provide school requirements like soap, tissue, manila, exercise books, surgical blades, a bond, full rim of paper, to name just a few? That innocent Manjoro say that. Munyamu Kupe says, so the poor can't be learnt. Why are public schools charging high school fees and denying people to buy uniforms from outside? I want to deal with that one on fees, because Miranda then asks, I'm an orphan, I have 3 siblings, the youngest is 6, and can she be put under the BEAM organization? My grandma can't afford school fees. What is the position on that?
The position is that all vulnerable children in our country can be placed under BEAM. I know that there may be some bureaucratic issues related to that. I have addressed some issues myself, but our officers, again, provincial level, district level, can also help in such cases. There have been a few headmasters who have not understood clearly what their mandate is when they have a recommendation from social services regarding the enrollment of learners who are on BEAM. Once they receive such a learner, they should enroll immediately. Even when BEAM money delays coming, they should continue on assuming that that money will come. And so there's no question about that. Where there's vulnerability, child-headed households, guardians who cannot afford, they go to the Department of Social Services and they get recommendation to be on BEAM. And our schools are supposed to enroll those learners and make sure that they are not bothered. Even the guardians are not supposed to be bothered, because it becomes government responsibility to pay.
0772168045. We've got a call on the line. Caller, where are you calling from? What's your name and what is your contribution?
Masara calling from Kariba.
Masara, what's your contribution?
I want to ask the minister about 2 issues. First issue is about the issue of Form 4s in regard to transfers. When a person is transferred now and is about to write an exam, what is about the issue of tasks and everything? That's one of the first questions. The second question is about infrastructure in the rural areas. I'm also a facilitator in the ministry, but the issue of infrastructure, we appreciate what the minister is saying and we thank the minister, but in terms of infrastructure, it's not only about textbooks that we are looking at. We are looking at people who are learning under shares. Yes. What is going to happen when it comes to infrastructure to be addressed? These are my questions.
Thank you very much for your contribution.
Okay. The first question, Larry, is that the tasks, the continuous assessment, is based on a file for the learner. Whatever has been assessed at the school where they are at, maybe they've done Form 3 there and they're transferring to another school to do Form 4. That file is supposed to transfer with them. So these tasks are done, they are assessed, a mark is given, then they transfer with that file and continue with the continuous assessment. The issue of infrastructure, Larry, and I want to thank this caller for asking that, because we may be talking about teacher capacity development or training for delivery of the new curriculum. We may be talking about books and teaching and learning materials. But we have a big challenge as far as infrastructure is concerned, especially where we have the satellite schools, mainly in the resettlement areas, where we settled people under the land reform program, but there were no school infrastructure. We, as government, are working on a joint venture program to deliver that infrastructure. We are starting this year with the construction of 17 schools under a loan program from the OPEC Fund for International Development. But that's a drop in the ocean. We need about 2,000 schools. So what we have done in the ministry is to lay a framework for joint venture partnerships, where we will start in the latter part of this year with the construction of 166 schools. Once we have this proof of concept that joint venture partnerships work, then within the next 4 to 5 years, we hope that we'll be able to then do the rest of the 2,000 schools that represent the gap that we have in our system. No, at that particular point in time, we won't have the sheds that he's talking about. These schools will become complete with all the infrastructure, water, electricity, internet connectivity, and teaching and learning rooms, including science labs, even for primary school. And then the specialist rooms like your wood technology, your metal technology. We are laying, in the first 100 days of this new administration, we'll have the institutional framework for joint venture partnerships. We'll create a fund which will be ring-fenced, an education fund which will be ring-fenced, which will be set up in the Infrastructure Development Bank of Zimbabwe. My ministry will not touch it. It will be administered there. And this will be the basis for attracting investors to invest in our infrastructure under joint venture partnerships. And I think we can do that.
0772168045. We've got a caller on the line. Caller, what's your name, where you're calling from, and what's your contribution?
Makadi.
Tripa Magadi.
Ine ndoda kubvunza minister ndechekudai so wakamboiadopta kupiko new curriculum yayo because iri kutirwadza iri kutirwadza isusu maparents hatina mari. Uri kuona situation iri paground kuti nyika haina mari, vana vacho vanoda kuenda kuchikoro asi panodiwa mari. Isusu hatina mari, kvari kumusha vanoda mawifi, vanoda chii, vanozviwana kupi? Intaneti zvese zvinowanikwa kupi izvozvo?
All right, miratipe minister mukana wekuita respond.
Larry anzi vabvunza kuti takaiwana kupi. We got it from recommendations that came from the Zinziramasanga Commission in 1999, the so-called SEAT report. Made recommendations about the adoption of this new curriculum. We also got it after extensive consultations with our people throughout the country, including industry, including other ministries, including various sectors. They have said, let's build a curriculum that transforms this country from poverty to wealth, transforms this country from being rudimentary in the in the approaches that we use in farming, in mining, especially artisanal mining, to where we can find solutions. And the human resource to do that has to be created through a transformed curriculum. And this is where we got it. Comparatively, Larry, tikatarisa dzimwe nyika ziri kuita zvakanaka pa economy yadzo, nyika dzakaita sana Singapore, sana China, sana South Korea, dzine curriculum dzakadai dzinoemphasize nyaya dzeScience, the technology, nyaya dzema-ICTs. Ndiri kunzwa zviri kutaurwa na mama wafona vachiti nyika haina mari. I fully understand that. Ndokusaka tiri kuti isusu as government we have to come up with innovative ways of providing for this new curriculum. Joint ventures dzandiri kutaura dziya idzi. ICT izvozvi as we speak, the Ministry of ICTs has adopted in its 100 days the provision of internet connectivity in 1,300 schools through ZANET, and we're working together with them. Tel One has a big chunk of the same. E-learning solutions. These three companies, when everything is said and done, are supposed to bring connectivity to every part of the country. And as they do that, they also provide computers so that we can bridge the digital gap between the rural areas and the urban areas. I have indicated that Tirikui Sama teaching and learning materials are 9 million. Government through Treasury has also allocated money for the implementation of the new curriculum. Saka government at Nambo Garachete. But ukatari salary where we came from, 1980, maamusina zvikoro muno, munyika muno. We didn't have adequate schools, but we came together as a nation to provide those schools. Hence, first of all, through upper tops, which were despised at that particular point in time. But some of those schools that were branded upper top at that particular point in time are some of the best performing schools that we have in the country today, because we came together as a nation and said we were going to do this. And if we want to transform ourselves in socio-economic terms, in terms of moving to where we have industrialization, we create jobs, we have to adopt this curriculum. Tawakusara mashure wana Kenya are way ahead of us as far as implementing curriculum.
You tune into ZFM Stereo, my station, your station. We're going to take a break right now. When I come back, I'm going to read some of your WhatsApp messages that are still taking calls, and want to have this important conversation on the future of this country, particularly to do with the education curriculum.
Connect with ZFM Stereo via Facebook on facebook.com/ZFM Stereo. It's ZFM Stereo Talk.
We are always moaning about the state of our roads. Your Worship, Bernard Manyenyeni, thank you, sir, for coming through to the program. Are you receiving money from Zinara? And if you are, what are you using it for?
The crisis we are facing in the last 2-3 years around potholes, firstly, it's not a problem of one city, and secondly, it's not a problem of last year or the year before. It tells the story of the 8 or so years that funds have gone to Zinara and they don't come back to the roads. That's why we are where we are.
The talk that gets you talking, Mondays to Thursdays between 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. To all you Twitter heads, connect with ZFM Stereo on twitter.com/ZFM Stereo. /ZFM Stereo.
The platform. Step up and speak up.
It is ZFM Stereo still. My name is Larry Kwirirayi. It's the platform. I've got 15 minutes for you, so please bring your calls in, get your WhatsApps in. I want you to have direct access to the minister who's been so kind to come in here, the Honourable Minister, Professor Paul Mavhima, who's talking to us about the issue to do with the education curriculum. I've got a call. Yes, I've got a flashing call here. 0772168045. You're live on ZFM Stereo. Could you just turn down your radio? Okay, I'm going to give that listener the chance to turn down the radio. We're getting a bit of feedback.
Hello.
Are you still there?
Yes. Hello.
Okay, what's your name, what's your contribution, and where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Chirezi. My name is Makota.
Okay, Makota, please go ahead.
Yes, my first question is, in fact, I want to appreciate first with the effort the minister is doing, but I've got a lot of questions to ask now.
Please go ahead.
Number one, couldn't the government make the changes in steps slowly, not to bring it once like what they did? Number one, because it looks like the teachers themselves are failing to cope up with the material which happens. That ends up bringing a lot of homeworks to parents, and it affects the quality of education by the end of the day.
Okay, and your second point?
Then the second point is, I'm a bit worried because if I look at the minister is a professor by now, and he learned the syllabus to learn most of us, but you see, we still produce quality educated people. What made us change from this in this manner? Well, I appreciate the change, but I think the way it was brought is the problem, because it's not really matching up with the changing times. Like our country situation, we don't have enough money, and the materials to buy is very expensive. I think it was supposed to be done gradually, slowly, and we end up there.
Okay, let me give the minister the opportunity to respond, because we want to get a few calls in. Thank you very much for calling, Makota. So that question.
Yes, Larry. But the cat is out of the bag already, and we are running around now to make sure that we normalize that situation by really producing the resources that we need in order to address some of the issues that this Mr. Makota referred to. The training of teachers is an ongoing process. Today, actually, we had a workshop for all our managers, senior managers, middle managers, all the way to inspectors, just hammering on a better appreciation of this new curriculum. We have to continue to do that, training of our teachers. So we have to provide the resources, because the cat is already out of the bag. This new curriculum is good. Resources, yes, limited when we started, but more and more of those resources are becoming available. And we hope that with this new dispensation, we are going to have an economic upturn, and this economic upturn is going to allow us to deploy more and more resources into the new curriculum. I am a professor, yes. Went through the old system, but if you compare Zimbabwe with others, you can see that others are much more practical in their approach, and this is what we have been trying to do. We have been trying to say, let's have technical skills in the various areas. Let's have financial literacy. Let's have ICT literacy, which can transform this country. Education cannot be at a standstill. We need to change it as the times change. The demands of the 21st century are different from the demands of the 20th century as far as skills and jobs are concerned. And we have to keep up with the times, otherwise we remain behind as a country, and we remain behind forever.
Okay, just going back to messages that we got from earlier today. The number to call us, I'm still receiving phone calls, but I want to ask this question because this was asked earlier and it's been coming up on our WhatsApp platform on 0731 168 David Mhlanga raised a complaint in which he says some SDC or SDA committee members are conniving with headmasters to steal school funds. What is the position of the minister on this? And somebody says, how are you going to deal with the corruption that is rampant in SDAs within schools? Some probably think of school development associations.
That approach, that problem, Larry, we have started a comprehensive audit process. We have done Manicaland province, and every school was audited. We are now moving to Marsh Central, and every school was audited. We used to select schools to say that we are going to audit maybe 10% of the schools in a district or in a province, but now we are auditing each and every one of our schools to look at compliance with the set standards for financial practice. But also, we are not using the audit only as a compliance tool. We are using it as a way to improve the management of our schools, to feed into the training that we give to our administrators, but also the training that we give to SDCs. But let me also refer back to my earlier statement to say, where citizens see malpractices in our schools, they should just blow the whistle, tell us about these issues so that we can address them. And we do address them. There have been many cases throughout the country of those who have misappropriated public funds, and they have been brought before courts, sent to jail, asked for restitution to the schools, and fired from their jobs if they are our headmasters. If they are SDCs, then the courts take up the issue. So we are not, we are not playing with this issue. What we have done is, when we go into a province, we pull all our auditors together from all the other provinces, and we look for auditors from other ministries to help us so that we can comprehensively do the audit. Where there is misappropriation, the cases are reported to the police, and those people are brought to book.
0772168045. Please turn down your radio so that we can turn down the feedback. Okay, I think you're now clearer. What's your name? What's your contribution? And where are you calling from?
All right, my name is Samait. I'm calling from Harare.
Please go ahead with your contribution.
Yes, my question is for the minister to confirm if it is part and parcel of the new curriculum that the students from Form 3 are supposed to bring laptops, personal laptops to school. My daughter is at a boarding school in Manicaland, and as part of the list, there was a laptop that was written there. We could not afford to buy it, and I'm worried she may be falling behind. So that's number one. Number two, if it is true, then how does the minister foresee management of laptops? Every child bring a laptop, abuse of Wi-Fi, and vana download zvakasiyana-siyana. Number one. Number two, the security aspect. Chikoro chine more than 300 laptops lying around. If it is true, I just want clarification there. And what's the point of having computer labs at school if children are going to be asked to bring laptops? Can you please kindly clarify that for me? Thank you very much.
Thank you for your contribution. So, questions, laptops?
Yes, Larry. There is no policy to say boarders should bring laptops to schools. But let me say this. If a learner is in A level, I, as minister, would actually encourage that learner to have a laptop so that they can be more effective in doing their assignments, in doing research using the Wi-Fi at school. I wouldn't encourage every learner at every school to have laptop. This is why, for example, we are pushing for the computerization of schools, especially those schools that cannot afford. Most of the boarding schools can afford to provide computer connectivity in their computer labs or at the library, Larry. And I would actually encourage that such facilities are provided so that learners can do their research online, but with supervision of the teachers.
Now, what about this? I think somebody said my child is in Form 3. So
yes. So I'm not. I'm saying that we don't have a policy to say schools should require.
And then at A level, is it a policy to say you should do it, but is it encouraged?
It's not a policy, but I'm saying we encourage them. Remember, these are just about to transition to college. And every college right now, be it teachers training college, is also encouraging learners to have laptops. And it's more efficient and effective to teach and learn under those conditions.
I've got a question here. It says you were talking about the 2,000 schools. Hansi, in the meantime, what do we do in the year 2000 schools since we don't have the 2,000 schools?
We are continuing to build even at a slow pace, and we are making do with those sheds, Larry. We are making do with those sheds. The children are going to school, but I'm saying we don't want to continue to have that condition. This is why we are coming up with innovative ways.
And then I've got another question. It says, let me just post this here. It seems to have closed this. How about those who want to sit for ordinary level as correspondents? Will they be able to cope with the new curriculum?
Yes, they will be. In fact, there is a transitional period where they will be on the old platform for about 3 years, and then we craft a way for seamless transition. The other way we are dealing with that issue, Larry, is to open up all our schools as non-formal education centers, where the teachers currently teaching are available to the non-formal learners, so that they can supervise whatever continuous assessment that needs to be supervised. And that's into the future. But for now, there's going to be a 3-year transition period where they can continue on the old platform.
And this is an interesting question. It says, are we not exposing our children to all kinds of abuse when they are carrying out their projects? Because you find school kids muma organization vachiti tukuvunza zve project once bumped into vamwe vachitsvaka zve environment impact assessment. We know the world is rough out there. Adults are being abused in these organizations. What more vana kuchikoro vanononoka vachiti tiri kuita zve project nevemsikanza and they're not hiding, and they're now hiding behind the project banner. So what would you say about things of that nature?
The way the doing of projects outside the school is supposed to be organized is that there has to be a teacher playing local parentis, guiding the students, supervising the students. Schools are not supposed to let the learners out on their own, especially during the hours when they are supposed to be in school. So we will have to emphasize the need for that kind of arrangement. But having said that, Larry, most of our schools, the former Group B schools, they have not enjoyed the same privileges as the former Group A schools. Group A schools always provided for learners to go out, experience the world, do projects, do leadership development programs, but under supervision. And this is what we want to see in our schools.
Finally, and I think Chila would like to ask a question, but I want to ask this final question. You talk about all these great things that are happening. What happens if after elections you're reassigned to these policies?
These policies are not Mavhima policies, by the way. These policies are collective decisions taken by the government, the cabinet of Zimbabwe. So these policies are not mine. They are cabinet decisions. I am there just to implement decisions that have been agreed collectively by the cabinet. The framework had to be approved by cabinet, and I'm running with it on behalf of the president of this country.
Okay, so I've got Chila in here. Chila, before I ask you what you got tonight, I'm sure you've got a question that you're burning because I want to do Kenya.
Yeah, I've got a question, Minister. Vana kuchikoro anokwanisa here kudzingirwa bus levy isitabhadhara fees. Izvi mubvunzo wandiri kubvunza kazvinhu zvakatoitika svondo rapfuura here kuti mwana akatodzingwa kuchikoro nokuti anga asina kubhadhara bus levy but anga abhadhara school fees yese.
Chila, hakuna mwana anofanira kudzingwa kuchikoro for any reason, be it the basic levy kana kuti iyo bus levy yauri kutaura, hakuna mwana anofanira kudzingwa kuchikoro. The only exception yatakaisa ndeyekuti kana munhu achuza kuendesa mwana wake kuboarding, it's a choice that you make, and kuboarding kune zvinhu zvinodiwa ikoko, food, bedding and other things. Saka kana wachuza kuendesa mwana wako kuboarding, you should be ready to pay the boarding fees that are required. Kana uchikwanisa kutoita payment arrangement kuti ndombopeya shoma ndozopeya imwe, then you can go ahead and do that. But hakuna mwana unofanira kudzingirwa fees of any type. The responsibility yekuendesa mari kuchikoro ndeya baba na mai nema guardians anenga achiona vana kana kuti hurumende under beam. Saka hakuna mwana unofanira kudzingirwa. They have a right to be in school all the time.
Ayo mazita yenyu mune kune toll free number here, because my parents zikungoka ukatozikanwa kunzwa complain aka mwana wako akutoniswa mutu pachikoro ipapo.
In fact, Chila, that's a good suggestion in not only our department but all government departments, in the interest of what I call representative bureaucracy. We need to have toll-free numbers. We need to have other platforms where people can air their concerns.
I know people were asking Kuti Twitter handle, yeah, Minister, because you want to ask my questions and so forth. That is, the president is on Twitter now. So
Yes. I have at Professor P. I don't want to.
Okay, we'll put it on our social media platforms. We'll get it from you.
That's fine.
Okay, that's it.
But I am on Facebook. I am on Facebook as an individual, Paul Mavhima. I am on Facebook, a page called Professor Paul Mavhima. They can send me messages there. I am on WhatsApp. WhatsApp is a little bit difficult because I don't want to be flooded too much. Otherwise, I won't be able to respond to everything. But suffice it to say, the whole idea of platforms where citizens can air their views and concerns is a noble one, and I'll make sure that it's provided for the ministry.
Okay, that's our story coming up next. Thank you very much, Honorable Professor Paul Mavhima, the Minister of Primary and Secondary Education, for coming through. Your messages, unfortunately, there are hundreds of them that were coming in. Unfortunately, we couldn't go through those today, but keep the conversation going online. My name is Larry Kwirirayi. I'll be back with you tomorrow between 8:30 and 9 p.m. on what is called Health Matters. Other than that, I leave you with the phrase that comes from my hometown, Woblawayo, Asilu Siyasebenza. It's the FM Stereo, my station, your station, the hottest radio in town. Thank you.
Yeah.
Stop some samana. No